Great. Well, I actually wanted to start by showing you one of my seed concepts. Is that good?
That's great.
Okay. Okay, great. So I did a play by Youssef and Seth Klein. It inspired my first seed concept. The title is So Beautiful Today, So Sunny. Have you read this before?
I think so, yeah. Because it's like, wait, maybe not. Maybe we haven't read it yet. Andrew, do you know?
I don't think so.
Let me look at the spreadsheet. It might not be something we read yet. But
I
you
might
can
have just missed that week though.
Who's the playwright again?
Youssef. So it starts with his last name starts with a Y. So it might be at the
Oh,
bottom.
yeah. So we haven't read it yet. I mean, we could read it before you show us if you want.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's do that.
Okay, let's go out of order. Let's be wild.
Okay. Great.
Because Andrew's here, we're going to be wild.
Okay, great. So then I'll read the intro while
Perfect.
you two pull it up.
Perfect.
Okay. So Beautiful Today, So Sunny by Youssef and Seth Klein. The inspiration for this verbatim piece is inside of the piece itself. Policy analyst and climate activist Seth Klein is my neighbor. Over the last few years, we've become friends as each of us approached 50 and navigated transitions in our work lives. Part of Seth's change was leaving his full-time job to write A Good War, Mobilizing Canada for the Climate Emergency, a book that uses Canada's historic national mobilization of World War II as a model for responding to the climate crisis. We also collaborate through the Vancouver Municipal Political Party, One City, which is most visibly represented by Vancouver City Councillor Christine Boyle, a climate activist and Seth's partner. The characters are friends, consciously choosing to have this conversation, knowing that it will be made public. The actors can feel free to include the audience if, as, or when it feels right. Maybe particularly when the characters seem to acknowledge that they are speaking publicly. The dance between public and private speech feels to me like a useful way to investigate this. Great, so that was the intro. I'll read the stage directions. Do you two want to be the two characters?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Sure.
So Seth and Marcus speak to the audience. They are not walking. The first two highlighted lines are possible additions to the distributed text. Strike-throughs are possible cuts, up to you.
I'm Youssef. I'm a 51-year-old cisgendered man, mixed race Egyptian Canadian.
I'm Seth Klein. I'm 52, also a cisgendered guy, and my family's Jewish. We're friends.
And we are walking.
Outside in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
Unceded Coast Salish territory.
On a cold day in late January 2021, during the second wave of the COVID pandemic.
They speak to each other.
Thanks so much for doing this.
You're welcome. Hey, just before we start, I just want to say I'm sorry about your dad.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that.
You were close.
Yeah, I guess. Yes.
You've talked to me about him.
It's hard. I mean, he was a very powerful figure in my life, as dads are, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I thought we would just wander towards Trout Lake because that's where I like to walk.
I'm happy with that.
It's so beautiful today. So sunny. So I'm just going to dive in. Can you introduce yourself in whatever way you feel like you want to?
Seth's introduction is likely to the audience.
Okay. My name is Seth Klein. I most recently am the author of A Good War, Mobilizing Canada for the Climate Emergency. For 22 years before that, I was the founding director of the British Columbia chapter of the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives.
And over the last few years, you've gotten laser focused on climate change as an issue.
I'm very focused on the gap between what the science says we have to do and what our politics prepare to entertain, figuring out how to tackle that gap.
Is that the Green New Deal?
I think the Green New Deal is a central and powerful model for bridging the gap.
What is the Green New Deal? Give us the one paragraph summary.
Okay, so like the original New Deal, the Green New Deal takes a profound crisis and meets it with massive public investment. It's an ambitious plan to spend billions in new green infrastructure to electrify everything and create millions of jobs. Not sure that was quite a paragraph.
That was a very good paragraph.
Thanks. Can I add, the Green New Deal is about linking climate mobilization to tackling inequality. What I learned in my research about the effort to mobilize Canada for World War II is that it was actually hard to do with the typical propaganda. You know, go across the sea and go get Hitler. That works only to a point. The government had to promise that the society people came back to was going to be different, which happened. Canada saw its first major income support programs introduced in the war. Unemployment insurance in 1940, the family allowance in 1944. It's the same with the Green New Deal today.
What's the best argument against it?
What's the best argument against the Green New Deal?
If you had to choose one.
That it's not realistic or feasible.
What about that argument keeps you up at night a little?
None of it.
Really?
Really, I talk about it in my book. We're all trapped by the legacy of 40 years of neoliberalism. The powerful thing about an emergency, whether it's the war or COVID, is that things that seem politically or economically off limits suddenly become possible. If you said to Canadians in 1938, does the government have what it takes to completely transform the economy? I'm pretty sure most would have said no.
I'm also conscious that some people who may watch what we're constructing here are not from wealthy industrialized countries. How does that impact what you're talking about?
That's a hard one. It's a fair question. The other piece of the legacy of neoliberalism is that it has undone our senses of our ability to do grand things together. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but history is full of surprises of how quickly we pivot if and when we recognize emergencies for what they are.
When I pitched this to you, I said, this year the theme is envisioning a Green New Deal. And you were like, so this time you're not going to write something so nihilistic?
Less dystopian.
Right, but you said less dystopian.
Your last piece was very dystopian.
It was.
There's a lot of artistic work that tackles climate, but it's almost universally dystopian.
What's your read on that?
When we think about climate, we imagine the terrifying hellscape, but I'm also struck that a lot of the artistic mobilization for the Second World War was not like that. Even though they were surrounded by death and destruction, it was positive. It was rallying the public.
I wonder if that's artists not wanting to be propagandists.
You can't tell artists what to do. I understand that. I think the Great New Deal needs to have a big arts component, just like original New Deal. And in World War II, artists walked this careful line. They were forthright about the gravity of the crisis, and yet they still imparted hope. Everyone's got different stories to draw on that invite us to stay in moments of existential threat or crisis. Who do we want to be?
Totally. Everybody goes through crisis in some way. It's part of the human experience.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to say again, I'm really sorry about your dad.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
End of play. Seth Klein is a public policy researcher. He was founding director of the BC office of the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, as now team lead of the Climate Emergency Unit, a project of the David Suzuki Institute. Marcus Youssef's 15 or so plays have been produced in multiple languages in more than 20 countries across North America, Asia, and Europe. Seth and Marcus are both based in Vancouver / unceded Coast Salish territory and live 4 blocks from each other near Commercial Drive. Great. So the things that really stuck out to me as I was reading this was, well, first of all, this interest that Seth Klein has between, like, drawing parallels between the first New Deal and the Green New Deal, which I knew about them both individually, but I hadn't connected them. So like one-to-one before. And I loved the discussion of the propaganda from World War II as a way of motivating the public and communicating like the level of crisis at that time. So yeah, I also really heard that this time Marcus was trying not to write something dystopian, So I found that kind of a pleasurable prompt to look back at propaganda from World War II and try and see what about it wasn't dystopian, like see what about it was like the aesthetics of rallying or like encouragement. So what I started by doing, I'll share my screen. This here. So, okay, do you see the screen here? Okay, so I just started researching propaganda, Canadian propaganda from World War II, and was pretty, like, it was familiar to me, the aesthetics of it, like very hand-drawn, like painterly, and like cartoony. There's kind of this, yeah, total play with scale and like bright colors, and also text and font. Like the graphic design of this time was really particular. So I was interested in trying to pull inspiration from these images. And the thing that I felt could speak to the Green New Deal or the climate crisis today was the way that the landscape was depicted in the World War II propaganda. So I removed the more like cartoony people and objects, and got really interested in like the color fades and the kinds of like bold text. Also, I noticed that like in a few of them, like this one says daddy helps build them. You know, there's like references of children talking to their fathers. There's another one here that says come into the garden, dad, which I thought was an interesting, like a tactic to have children being the ones speaking to their parents or being proud of their parents for taking this action during World War II. So this is my seed concept. Just trying to open it here. Do you see the seed concept large now? No, okay, let me just do a new share. Great, so this is my seed concept. I imagined it as, you know, in a black box theater, we have these two guys talking and they're not actually walking. So the landscape I wanted to make was like not a landscape. I don't actually imagine they'd be walking through the landscapes, but I basically tried to like pull out the backgrounds of the landscapes that were in the propaganda that I was looking at and create a scenography of like posters, that kind of like old school or retro postering or like flats style representation of the land, and also incorporate some of the text that seem to still resonate between the World War II propaganda and what we might want to be asking or what the authors are asking in the play. So I'm really happy with how bright it is. Like I feel like it's not nihilistic, but it's also kind of disjointed and really feels like things need to be put together still. So these are my first instincts and my seed concept.
I love it. I feel like it's so it's going to be so fun to imagine this space and the irony of that line, like, please don't write something dystopian. Like, I just feel like there's something really like dry humor about that, like contrast of these two men in this environment. And I think it's like really beautiful. And I just wonder like how 2D it would remain and if that would be like really interesting. Or like, yeah, like the poster aesthetic is really interesting. The like the flat kind of like aesthetic I love. So yeah, I think it's great. I also love that it's connecting the fact that the youth are like acknowledging the efforts of their elders. There's something like really strong in that connection you pulled out between the first like the New Deal and the Green New Deal, that like this such a youth-led movement. So to think of like the kids being like, good job, Dad, is like really cool when you apply it to like actions against climate change. I think it's a really good angle.
Yeah, maybe there's that you bring that back, they're saying that back to me makes me feel like maybe the imagery could be even more childlike.
Yeah,
or
maybe.
something.
I guess I remember being really impressed by kids' protest signs in the climate march. Like I remember just being like, whoa, the things they have to say are so cool. And also the women's march, I was like, I love seeing kids' signs, like what they think we should be shouting and like carrying. And there's something a bit in this aesthetic that could connect that, like that association as well, I think.
Mm-hmm. I love that Marcus and Seth like include this brief, like sort of bookend the play with references to the father who's passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a sort of generational shift. That's it's subtle, but it's also really prominent. And they mention it twice, and it's the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, they're both 52. Like they are, at an age where they might have children or would conceivably have children who maybe are old enough to talk to them about this stuff. So yeah, interesting. It was really fun.
Looks fun. I love that it's like you're literally like answering the call to be like, why can't we like do something like positive and projecting good into the world around this topic? Why does it be so like dull and like heavy? I just think it's really special.
Thank you. I also love posters. Like I love 2D set pieces. So this was like really an opportunity for me to like dive into that aesthetic, because I just always want to have like banners in my set designs. I never get to do that, but I always want to.
This is the time. Your time has come.
Amazing. Okay, now let's get back. We can get back to the actual list. Thank you for letting me share that.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad we did that detour. It was so fun.
Okay, I'm just going to pull up the first play. So we have the first play by Margaret Namulyanga, and the title is Make It Make Sense.
Perfect.
Here we go. Okay, I'll read the introduction here. Downtown Kampala is where one finds self-starting Ugandans going on about their business. These people are affected by international proclamations and policies, but no one cares to seek their input when it comes to solving global crises. It's their resilience and colorful existence that inspired this drama. The setting is downtown Kampala, open air meeting in progress. So we have 4 characters. CR, city council representative. A is a young man, food hawker on the go. B is a heavy woman in her late 30s. C is Haji in his 50s, wearing a throbe and kufi. Great. Okay, so it starts with murmurs. Good people, first listen.
No, you listen.
Do you know how many septic tanks we have in this arcade?
6 septic tanks. I know, which is why the city council chose this arcade. With it being the most densely populated, it produces a good amount of waste. Our engineers would like to capitalize on that.
But from what you were saying, you are not talking about emptying these things and leaving everything alone. You were talking about overhauling everything.
Yes, you see, these people are going to install equipment that will work with the necessary technology, okay? We are talking about breaking down organic matter, conditioning, scrubbing, and cleaning gas. It's a different setup altogether.
For how long?
About 3 months.
3 months while the arcade is covered in a world of stink.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. While you carry on with the digging and emptying and everything you just said, you know the stomach is a funny fellow. Before one finishes the last lunch morsel, the stomach is wondering, what's for dinner? I guess my question is, when you are doing all the digging, you see where I'm going.
Haji, just say what you want to say before my customer's food cools off.
We still have to go, you know?
Murmuring. Friends, ladies, gentlemen.
Anna, thank you for asking that question, Haji. I wanted to ask, but I wondered how to put it diplomatically. For you, your shop is on the 5th floor. I am on the 1st floor. What if I am in there while their people are down there carrying on, then boom, the whole thing falls through. Whew.
You don't have to worry about that.
Not to worry, she says.
You'll be using the ones in your homes.
Wang Yi, are we to spend our working hours on the road going back and forth, back and forth? Make it make sense.
That or fasting.
Ah, me, I have stomach ulcers. I am in enough pain already.
You'll stay at home and you'll be compensated.
Compensated by whom?
The city council? With what?
With money.
Money from where?
No wonder they have been introducing funny taxes and all sorts of fines. So you are going to return to us some of the money you take from us, and then what? We say thank you very much. Thank you very much.
CR tries to jump in.
Tell you what, as soon as they get a chance, they will introduce new taxes to offset this compensation. The nerve of these people. I guess when you look at us, it is jackfruits you see sitting where our heads should be.
Please allow me to finish. It's not your money. The people who are funding the project will take care of that. By the way, the taxes we collect from you don't even cover a quarter of the budget of this project. I'm telling you, if you see the size of the budget, thousands of pages, rest assured the project is well funded. All we need is for you to stay at home so that the work gets done as soon as possible. In the meantime, we need evidence pertaining to your monthly expenditures, incomes.
These people have bank loans while we are on the subject.
All that, and how much you pay for your household bills.
Like bring receipts?
For onions?
Madam, this is downtown Kampala. Or have you forgotten and you think you are talking to those uptown people who buy things from supermarkets and get receipts?
Melissa, come on. We both stay in Gayaza. You and I buy our groceries from Calorie Market. I'm on your side, people. We only need justifiable rough estimates. Our accountants and planners will work with what you give us, okay?
Oh, well.
Questions? Silence. CR sorts through her paperwork and files.
The way I see it, these people have a lot of money.
No doubt.
But do you trust them? Only if the compensation is delivered pronto. My friend, we need to see cash first. Otherwise, gavumanti tibanjiki. The powerful can be a nuisance when they owe the common person money.
Silence.
We are going to be using our what? To cook our food? Stop. I don't want to think about it.
As long as the brand name is not reckless, they are in business. Otherwise, someone comes selling poop gas. I'm sending them back to wherever they came from.
What do you know? In the end, if they gave you a can of our usual gas and gas made from our stuff, you wouldn't know the difference. Science is,
We are here, but I tell you, someone out there is going to say no. As if.
No. As if they can put it on a plate and, all right. Stop it.
If you can tell me the language you're most comfortable in, I'll be sure to furnish you with the right paperwork.
Luganda.
Okay, how about you, Cebu?
Whichever. I need to get this food to my customers while it's still warm.
Here you go. And you, Haji. Holds paper close to his face, tries to read. For now, we only need your names and shop numbers. After our people have created your profiles, they will visit your stalls to get the rest of the details into computers. That's why we didn't want to waste too much paper.
After all, you are in the business of saving trees, the planet, and whatnot.
There you go. Exits.
Melissa, I need help with mine. The font is too small.
Silence as B fills out her paperwork haltingly.
Bye. We need to ask her if we shall be getting a discount. You know, you and discounts. It's only fair, Haji. Also, going forward, the city council needs to scrap the toilet service fee. We are now stakeholders in this business of saving the planet, given we are contributing capital in this project. Melissa, here, give me yours.
Silence. End. Margaret Namulyanga is a Ugandan currently living in Poughkeepsie, New York. Speech. Oh, I see. There's this great breakdown of pronunciations and also translation. So Wanji, akin to what the fuck are you talking about? Enha, in agreement. You can say that again. Aha, in disagreement. Sibo, sebo, ba. Oh, sebo. Bo is silent. Interesting. So say. Geryurzer, car railway, and then there's an optional text. Gavumenti Tibenjika. Interesting. That's great. I bet you could pop those extra words at the bottom and throughout, like the murmurs, etc.
Yeah.
I love that the author included those. I didn't realize till quite partway through that what they're discussing is capturing gas from their waste, their feces, to create gas that they'll cook their food with. I mean, I do believe that it would probably be science of it, but the humor that the authors captured in this is very relatable. That you might be uncomfortable with this concept, especially if it's being forced on you. It seems like a big change and could fly in the face of a lot of people's just associations. You don't want to be associating where you're going to the washroom with how you're cooking your food. But maybe it's the best thing for the world. This is that difficulty that we have to wrap our heads around constantly. I mean, I say these people in the play. Yeah, that's tough. I wonder how people in Toronto would react if that was one of the solutions to our climate crisis. Maybe with a lot less humor.
I think it's interesting that they seem to have had to deal with these kind of inputs on their life a lot. And so I think that I love that they're joking, at least this one's for the good of everyone. And so I think that they're used to being told to do the most weird, obscure things, and they don't always know why. And so I think that it's a very polite reminder that coming in from the outside and proposing a solution is not always the best way to integrate it into people's lives. I finished reading this play and I wonder, are they going to go along with it, or are they just going to do their own thing like they always have, and that's how they've survived? And there's slightly a celebration of that in the play. Yeah, I just think it's a really good reminder that collaboration is key, and integration is key, and not just imposing on people is the way forward, because it's sort of been a bit of the problem that we've created too globally, is imposing solutions without thinking about the integration.
Yes. And it seems like the play is like the context of the play is that this idea is just being told to the people who are going to be like intimately integrated into both like the production and also the like recipients of the product that's being made, but they seem to be taken aback by the whole concept. Like, would have been better if they had been a part of maybe imagining the solution and problem solving some of the like big issues that they're raising now. Yeah.
There was one line that was like, we're stakeholders now and like the investment because we have capital. I think it's interesting that like they're like almost forced to, like, if this is the new regulation for them, they're like forced to use this poop gas, but then they're the ones who like are affected, like their business is affected from it, their productions, all this stuff, and it's by choice, but they're looking at it as it, well, we are stakeholders now. So it's interesting that like with that mentality, we're all stakeholders in like the climate change, like in like the catastrophe of it, but also in like the solution of it. So I think there's this almost like double-edged sword of like something for your business might not be like good. Like if there was a restaurant that started using this gas to cook their food, like I'm sure there'd be a lot of like outrage about it. So it's bad for their business, but it's good for their environment, which might also bring in a separate group of customers. So I think it's interesting how there's always like this kind of like, there's two sides to every coin, and like with these like procedures and like policies that get implemented, if that makes sense. I don't know if I explained it good.
No, it totally makes sense. Like there might be unforeseen benefits, but at first blush, it's like that so it feels like it's hard change to make. Yeah, goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we move to the next play?
Mm-hmm.
I think we could fit one on before we take a little bit of a break at 11.
Let's do it.
Great. So the next play is by Payette, and it's called Green New Steel. Great. Okay. Performed as a vlog. So Kara is 16 years old, rich, but doesn't know it because all her friends have more money than her. Privileged. I know, like, I know what you mean. Privileged, but doesn't know it because one time she didn't get chosen for the travel soccer team, and that sort of oppression really left a mark on her life. She is a daily vlogger and is a passionate advocate for climate change and sun chips. She's holding her cell phone in front of her and is scrolling through questions.
My
I can read
God.
this one.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, it's a big one, so bear with me. Also, I'm very pregnant, so I have like less air. Maybe I might have to go slow.
Take your time.
Keep my breathing in pace. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Sorry that I forgot to post the Sunday gossip, but I had to dry mouth and could hardly speak. Anyway, I'm here on today's Wednesday wake up. I'm going to be breaking down the Green New Deal. You've heard about it, and I'm here to answer your questions, but I'm no expert. I'm just like you. So last week, I asked you to submit questions via the socials, and I'm going to try to make my way through as many as I can, but I'm making no promises. So anyways, here's the first question. What kind of lip gloss do you wear? You guys, this is supposed to be a video explaining the Green New Deal. Monday is our Q and Slay, and I can answer all your questions about my daily beauty regime then. But the answer is Bubble Betty Lip Balm. Link in the description down below. Okay, back to questions. Let's see. Why do they say global warming when last year our winter was still super cold? That's a great question, and I totally agree. It was super cold. I remember when I was a kid, like a couple years ago, and the snow used to melt by the end of March, and this last year it stayed until April. So not sure what's going on there. You guys are mostly asking about if I have a boyfriend and my cute outfits here in the questions. I'll get to that during our Friday fashion haul. This was to dispel the rumors of the Green New Deal. Oh, hold on, here's one. Why don't we stop transporting food all over the world and riding in planes and grow our own food and stop driving cars and ride horses instead? You're all being brainwashed by this Green New Deal. Okay, well, thanks for your question. That wasn't really a question, but a message from a hater, but that's okay. That's a pretty common statement though. And it isn't about that. It is about needing to acknowledge that there's a problem and work on ways to fix it. It's not like we're saying we're going to stop shipping food, but it is better for the planet to buy local food or for people to grow food in their own garden. These things are good things to do on a small scale. And then the Green New Deal is a larger vision for what needs to be done on a larger scale all around the world. Moving away from the oil and gas and trying to find more green solutions. I would love to ride horses to get around though. That wouldn't be so bad. Today's sponsor is Yum Yum Go Off, the only eco-friendly meal delivery service that provides you with tasty meals from around the globe for a low, low price delivered right to your doorstep. Use the code Cara at checkout for 10% off. Link below in the description. Well, that's all for today's Wednesday Wake Up. Leave your questions below for next week's episode when I'll be covering the Syrian conflict. Tomorrow I'll be back with my day in the life video, taking you along with me from the moment I wake up until the time I close my eyes. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Credits play with a cheerful image bouncing across the screen. Okay, end of play. Payette is proud of his OG Cree heritage from Northern Ontario and has worked as a playwright, actor, composer, and director across Canada. He is the artistic director of Urban Inc., Vancouver, past artist in residence with National Arts Centre, English Theatre, and founder of Raven Theatre. His musicals, Children of God, Les Filles du Roi, Sedna, have toured across Canada. Amazing.
I love this so much. It's so funny.
Yeah. It was really funny. It was funny to read. I feel like the beginning intro, the little bit of information about Cara, I'm the worst with the Cara. Oh my gosh. I think it's Cara. So the K. I feel like that should be part of, yeah, I mean, maybe not part of the play, but I really feel like the actor is given a gift there in describing this character.
Yeah.
This sentence, rich but doesn't know it because all her friends have more money than her, really strikes home. Like, you know, just moving from being a child and then an adult, like just having more awareness of wealth inequality. Like it really situates her like in this pre-teen, like not quite aware of the world moment, like, you know, of North American childhood, I think. And like, hopefully that's actually changing. But it feels very much like 1990s kid who might not really understand where they're situated in the world in terms of like class and wealth.
Yeah. I feel like if I worked on this, I would literally want to make her a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So you can like watch a video where she's like, I didn't get chosen for the traveling soccer team. And I really want to discuss that with you all because I think that this is oppression and oppression is very important. And I just like, I would love to see all these other videos. This is so begging for an amazing digital production where like the focus is this piece, but you can after or before, like while you're in the waiting room, you can like scroll through her channel and like see extra footage. So it'd be cool to like only make it available after the main performance, and then you like get these like extra little insights into her life.
Yes, I think that would be so important. Yeah. It could be live too. Like she could do this like live vlog every night, but then there'd
The
be
other
like,
ones.
yeah, pre-recorded videos as well on her channel.
That's actually a really good idea. Like it would be so fun to do like this is a live experience, and then at the end when she's like subscribe, follow, like blah blah blah, like as you're walking out you like get the link to her channel.
Yeah, totally.
Like you can see like the extra stuff. I think it'd be really cool.
So do you imagine that we're watching her like in her bedroom, like live, or do you imagine that you're like as an audience member watching it through the screen?
I think it'd be fun to watch her live, and it'd be like very like in her room, like the you know, the Instagram like thing where it's like real life Instagram. I want to see the real life in this. And then I want to see the channel when I leave. And I think that's the dichotomy that would be really funny, is like, I think we should really make this like about all the things you don't get to see as the audience. Like you're behind the scenes, and then you see how she presents herself after, and you're just like, so that would be fun to play with in the design too, is like, what's the thing that doesn't get caught by the camera that the audience, live audience, gets to really enjoy?
Yeah, that's great. I love that. All the things that are slightly out of frame.
Yeah.
Like when I logged onto this morning, I had a big carpet rolled up here, and I was like, "What's weird about? Oh yeah, I should move that carpet. Now it's over there."
Yeah, that would be so fun. That would be really fun.
You could do live. You could also like, so yeah, see her extra footage, and maybe also see like on a projection screen like the live feed.
Yeah.
But then also like a box set of her room that's filled with who knows what it would be filled with, but
that's the joy of it.
Yeah.
Ooh, I definitely signed up for this play because I want to imagine what's in her room.
Oh yeah, are you going to?
Like literally just signed up. I was like, I'm doing this. I want to do a concept on this. You all can do one too. We can all do one. I'm not the only one that's going to do it. But you don't have to.
Was anyone else signed up for this one?
No.
Or you're the first? Oh, okay, great. I'm excited for that one. Nice. Okay, well, it's 11. Should we take a short break? How are you guys feeling? Yeah. Okay. Alex, how long of a break should we take? Usually
do 5.
Yeah.
And then I have to split, and Michelle's going to join. So we'll do a little switchy do, and you can stop the recording during the break, and then you can start up when she's here. So you can just chill until she gets here.
Perfect. Okay. See you.
Thank you. It was so fun.
Great. So we're back from break. Michelle Tracy's here with us now. Yay. I think this is the first session where we've had all 3 Tria co-founders
present, not at the same time.
Not at the same time, but together. And Andrew, our VIP. Great. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. It's called Paying for It by Thomas Peterson.
I can hop in with well, maybe I'll just read the stage directions and start as the first someone.
Okay, cool.
This is a play about paying for climate action, or paying for climate inaction. A play about who pays and how. A slash indicates an overlap. Who is going to pay for it?
You'll pay for this.
Are you threatening me?
No?
You told me I'd pay for this.
Yes.
Usually that's a threat.
What?
You'll pay for this is famously a threat.
But you asked me who was going to pay for it.
That doesn't give you the right to threaten me. It's a reasonable question.
I didn't threaten you. I answered you.
How?
You asked me who is going to pay for it.
And?
I said, you'll pay for this.
There you go again. Intimidation.
I just want you to pay a lot of money in the right way.
We can't afford that.
No, we can. You can, especially. Clean air, clean water, good food, good care, good job, safe home. That's good, actually.
We can't invent money for this.
You invent money all the time.
For valuable things. Valuable, hot coal, fast gas, telephone, tablet, airplane, Bitcoin, large truck, large home, big lawn, big law, big oil, palm oil, big meat, concrete, valuable. People pay for that. You pay for that.
I think taking a deep breath that is so clean, I think that is valuable.
That's nice, but unfortunately, the market tends to disagree.
And a day that is the right amount of hot, the air hugs you a little bit, but not too hot.
That's nice, but unfortunately, the market tends to disagree.
Being wet sometimes, but not all the time. And when a doctor is nice and also free.
These are nice, but unfortunately, the market,
And beauty.
I don't even need to say it.
We'll pay for it.
You're threatening me again.
I said we'll pay for it.
So now you're also threatening you?
I mean, if we keep on like this, we're threatening us. In fact, if we put aside words and look at, well, deeds, you're threatening me so much more than I am threatening you.
Let me remind you that you said you'll pay for this, a threat.
And the thing I said about words and deeds,
I didn't hear that.
all signs point towards all of us paying for it one way or another, some more dearly than others. But I think it would be nice to pay for it by paying people to care as much as they can and to keep caring.
Thomas Peterson, US, is an organizer, writer, and director whose work focuses on the climate crisis. He is the artistic associate with the Arctic Cycle, with whom he co-organizes climate change theater action. He has written about theater and locality, climate propaganda, and the aesthetic of the sublime in climate theater. He is currently developing The Woods Avenge Themselves, an original adaptation of Ibsen's The Wild Duck. This is funny. I mean, I imagine it having like kind of like a who's on first rhythm, like just the like deliberate misunderstanding and how frustrating that is.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was also like thinking about Beckett a little bit.
Right. Just like the absurdity of it, of like never getting to a point.
And just like being stuck somewhere, having a conversation.
Right.
I think the like someone and someone else character titles are good. Like they're interesting. Because it's also possible, like it's possible there's two characters, it's possible there's more, I guess, right?
Right. Yeah. It could be like a larger argument, like of sides.
Yeah. That would be fun to play with. Like, even if you did the play twice, it's so short, you could do back to back, like once with 2 people and then like once with 10 people and see how that changes the meaning. It has that kind of like abstract quality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I could also see casting like age. Like if like, you know, like someone being like a small child or a very old person, and just how much we like entrust like knowledge to like different people. Like there is this whole thing around children and young people in this climate movement being like some of the smartest, most like intelligent speakers about what needs to happen, but they're often looked down upon by some of the older generations, and then that the reversal happens too, where young people just like dismiss the older generations based off of like, you've already messed it up, you know. So it'd be kind of interesting to see, yeah, how it's cast in different iterations.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I think like the market tends to disagree. Like to me, this is like so clearly like an older person's perspective, but like I more and more find like my peer group like transitioning from the like visionary wide-eye like optimist perspective into the market tends to disagree perspective. So I think that could be interesting to show like people like changing their minds like on their perspective in like how it's staged.
Yes.
And
Maybe
when like
even mid play, someone Googles something and it's like, actually,
yeah, and they're just like looking at their trading app and are like, oh, the market tends to disagree. Yeah.
I think at its heart, this play tries to get across the fact that we'll all pay for climate change in different ways. And I think I know what the author meant by we'll all pay for it, some more dearly than others. I think I know what that is suggesting, like people's lives will be affected in a like non-financial way, or like financial, but then also physical, emotional ways that aren't like quantifiable by the market.
Yeah.
Which I like, that's how it's sort of it comes around to this point at the end where it's like, what's value?
Mm-hmm.
I was reading this morning, the news about massive flooding that's happening in BC. And also some just brief headlines about like how the same area had some extreme drought forest fires a few months ago. And it just seems to be the location where there's like the most dramatic or like most highly publicized climate change effects. I mean, of course, there's like really under publicized climate effects that are happening in other places in Canada. But I wonder how those extremes that are in the news right now are going to change people's political feelings about value. It just seems so stark, like it's hard to ignore, even if you tend to look to the market more than policies and politics and activists.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it'll be a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hope so too, because like it's just brutal and devastating, but it's also like early days of like climate change like massively affecting Canada. Like a few readings ago, we were talking with Lawin, and she was saying how the like rains have changed so much where she is in the Philippines that like, you know, a rainy day that used to be like a few inches of rain is now like water up to your waist, like on the regular, like type flooding. And she's like, yeah, like we're not living in with hypothetical climate change, like we're living with it right now. So I don't know, like I think that there is like still a voice in this play of like people, like the someone just being very much untouched by climate change and like being able to just like think about the market and like live in a completely like safe reality where climate change is like a fantasy and like that's nice is like something you can just like set aside. So yeah, maybe it would be interesting to bring in some kind of like visuals of like climate catastrophe, like to like underpin this entire thing, to like, you know, show a little bit more of this reality that is like being responded to with like, but the market, like rising, like flooding or, you know, wildfires or.
Mm-hmm. And maybe like if there was this moment of like ability to project like images of what someone else is, the character someone else is thinking, also project images of what someone is thinking like, just those really enticing photos of like big homes and like green lawns, like children playing, like the dream of what people want to pay for, but they don't, or want, they like where everyone's savings are going, I guess, like leisurely retirements,
The American
vacations.
dream. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like maybe it would be interesting for someone else to be like standing in like 3 feet of water as this argument happens. Like the whole section where someone else says like you're threatening me so much more, and something about actions and deeds, and then someone else just goes, I didn't hear that. Like it's this like gaslighting conversation of like the climate movement versus like everyone who like is invested in the market and like has some wealth to like buy into a reality where like they can just not think about like really imminent catastrophe. I don't know. It's so complicated. It's like how much people believe in the market when they have a certain degree of wealth, or they have a belief that they're going to have a certain degree of wealth, versus people whose realities like have very little or nothing to do with that.
I think that's very true. And I think that's a big obstacle about the American dream, which is also the Canadian dream, is that everyone, I think this is quoting someone else, but my partner says often, Americans are convinced that they're about to become millionaires.
Yeah.
So that they don't act as though they are working class. Like they don't vote as though they will always be the working poor, or the working class or middle class, because they're like sure that they're living the American dream and one day they're going to have millions of dollars. So they should vote like millionaires.
That is so completely true. And like, it's like obviously there's meritocratic aspects of American society and Canadian society, but like the numbers show like the majority of people believe that they will be wealthy, but they just like, they believe in the vision so much that they cannot vote with like a collective conscience. They're just like they're trying to win the game. Yeah, I don't know whose quote that is, but that is like very much based in like, yeah, the American like mentality. Like they've all been sold this dream, and like seeing some people make it makes people believe that they'll beat the odds, or they don't even see the odds. I don't know what it is.
I wonder what a new dream would be like if we could reinvent the dream. Like if you were convinced that like your future is going to be really hard. So I don't know what it would take to reinvent that, but maybe having someone and someone else like pictured in imminent, either like real stakes, water up to their waist, or like imminent disaster that the someone character isn't like really aware of, like slowly, or maybe around them's burning, right. And they're just
maybe the someone character has like a life jacket on, and they're just like, or they're like in a boat or something.
Yeah, that would be good. I would really change the tone of their conversation. I like that though.
There's one, like, I was thinking like what you were saying about like value and how like they think they're going to be millionaires. So they create this like false reality of like, one day when I'm really rich, it like climate change won't affect me. So I was thinking like you set up this American dream, and then throughout the conversation, like it's falling apart and crumbling. And then finally at the end, there's like, what's we're all going to pay in some way. So like, it's like you may have achieved your dream, but at what cost, when you've worked your whole life kind of working towards this false reality. And then once you get there, it's the end of like times, you know what I mean? So it's like, was it worth it at the end to kind of like live in your false reality only to get to the point where you wanted, and then now you can't, it's not sustainable anymore to have that dream. So I think that'd be a kind of like a cool way to like almost shock the audience, to kind of be like a wake up call, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So have like this, this achievement at the end be somehow like flawed, or like the surroundings of it be,
Yeah, or it's like destroyed, or it's like crumbling.
Mhm.
And then as the like through the progression of the conversation of like who's paying for it, we're all really paying for it in the end. And it's hitting, like you were saying, people harder for those who don't even have like they're not even thinking about it, right? They're not thinking about being a millionaire because it's just so unrealistic to them, and they're more focused on like the greater good of things. So I think that kind of be like, yeah, just a wake up call to like the enticing reality of what you're really giving up for, to live in that false reality, and like to achieve the American Canadian dream.
So do you imagine like a set structure made of something that would literally like get shattered, or like that would wear away, or like
in the beginning I just pictured all white, but then as the conversation happened, I pictured like this beautiful like mansion landscape, like a white picket fence, and as it's going, like maybe like there's torrential downpour, and then like things start falling apart, like the way the set's rigged, and it's like really just getting destroyed, and at the end it's just like this heap of like rubble, and like you don't really even recognize that the beautiful house at the beginning anymore. It's just this destruction.
That could be a really interesting impetus for a design of like some kind of degradable like biomaterial, like just thinking about like materials I know that like, you know, wear away. Like there's this cornstarch packing peanuts that has become a replacement for like foam packing peanuts that like dissolve in water. Or like even like paper, like if you made like a set with like, you know, painted backdrops that were paper that got like soaked and like started disintegrating or something, like just like wondered how you could do that. Or maybe you like physically make a structure out of like sand, or I don't know what, but that could be really cool to like, that's such an interesting idea to play with, and like cool material inspiration of like creating a visual of destruction, but like in a way that like is organic and like is a material that like will break down quickly.
Right.
Yeah, I like the idea of contrasting that with someone like just wading in water. Like if you could do a split stage or something. Cool.
So cool.
Let's move on to the next one. We're doing good. Okay. So the next play is by Nicole Pschetz, and it's titled I Saw You Well. Okay. I Saw You Well. My inspiration comes from an idea taken from the wonderful book by Simon Lewis and Mark Maslin, The Human Planet, How We Created the Anthropocene. It is here that I read for the first time about the Half-Earth Project, a proposition by the biologist E.O. Wilson, in which half our planet's surface should be allocated to the benefit of other species. This would help sustain biodiversity as well as allow native people to continue living in harmony with these ecosystems. The Brazilian Cerrado in this play is the second largest biome in South America, the most biodiverse savanna in the world, and the birthplace of several rivers. Its conservation is important not only for the existence of its unique fauna and flora, but also to human existence. In recent times, its devastation has been accelerated. In my ideal future, half-Earth and rewilding could be a solution to stop mass extinction in this area. Okay, the setting. A place in the Brazilian Cerrado, a savanna. Characters. Guide, A local person dressed in simple, plain clothes, wearing leather sandals and a straw hat. Man, a foreign person dressed in trekking clothes. Bird, a BEMTV, Pschetz sulphuratus, a bird found all over Brazil. It can be a puppet or an actor wearing a mask and or a huge costume. Notes, there are many recordings of this bird available on the web. This play could also be adapted to another biome under threat. In this case, it would be interesting to try to find a bird with a similar call that is known and shared in popular culture. Okay, I'll do the stage directions. Two people walk in. They look tired. They've been walking for hours and have arrived at their destination.
That's it.
It's
It's
amazing.
amazing. Who would have thought it would work out this way?
Time can heal.
Can we go further?
It's forbidden. We've reached the fence.
But there's nobody around.
Look better.
I don't see anyone.
A bird sings. BEMTV, BEMTV.
He saw you.
That's a bird.
Exactly. And he saw you.
He's just doing his bird thing.
He said, "Bem te vi." In our language, that means I saw you well.
Well, that's popular culture. He could as well have said, come and see.
The bird sings again. BEMTV, BEMTV.
What you call popular culture isn't as ignorant as you may think. The bird doesn't want us around.
Are you scared of a bird?
I'm respectful. That's his place. And he's sending us a gentle reminder.
These birds are everywhere. I'm going in.
He jumps over the fence, but the guide stays immobile.
You are breaking our agreement.
The man walks away and disappears. We hear a scream, blackout. Lights come up and he's lying unconscious on the floor. We hear the bird singing and approaching. BEMTV, BEMTV, TV. The man wakes up with the sound and sees the bird right in front of him.
Ugh,
Did I scare you?
what?
The man moves away from the bird with difficulty. He has a hurt leg, but he tries to hide it. Did I scare you?
Do you speak?
Don't you? The man doesn't reply. What are you doing here?
I thought I could.
Have a peek?
Yes,
You know you shouldn't.
but why?
Here it comes again. What's the matter? I was just curious. Anyway, I wasn't going to take anything.
I didn't take anything.
So what's that in your pocket? The man searches both pockets and finds a pebble, small branches, etc.
How did these end up in here?
I see.
I'm so sorry.
The man places all objects on the floor. The bird looks at him very carefully, as if trying to read his mind. When this part of the Cerrado was closed, many were against it. There were even protests, but I thought it was all over now. Is it why you are here? To protest? The man doesn't reply. I thought those of your kind had changed.
It's a shame all this has to be kept away from us.
Maybe I was mistaken.
We are not all the same.
I see. The bird stares at the man, examines him. Are you hurt?
Yes, I fell.
The bird stares at him again, then looks away. Years ago, tourists used to swim in that river. They would bring food and share it with us. We got used to it, even if it was like poison. They were mostly nice, often very loud, sometimes aggressive. They were everywhere with their tents, families, and pets. Many of us died in the mouths of their dogs and cats. Other animals also got hurt and died from their wounds. It was a relief when they finally disappeared. But then we understood things were getting worse. The mining companies arrived with a magnificent project of a pipeline. That gluttonous snake was made to carry metal from the mountains to the ocean using the water from that same river. We were in distress. Some would leave their nests for a few hours, and when they were back, the trees were gone. Many mountains started to disappear. We no longer knew where it was safe. It became so dry, there were huge fires. Death was everywhere. But suddenly, it all stopped. They packed and left. Other people arrived. They spent a long time studying the area and discussing with locals. Together they started planting trees. They took care of the river so we could drink from it again. Little by little, other birds, mammals, reptiles, insects started joining us. Those humans built up that fence, and for a while, they were surveilling it so nobody would come in. Finally, they also left. Now, from time to time, locals cross this area. They live peacefully on the other side. Others, like you, approach the fence and take a picture. But I've heard those of your kind are busy working in other places. I have no details because those of my own migrate now less nowadays. We don't need to. The Cerrado is so rich. Anyway, everybody knows our story. It seems like there has been a world revolution.
Yes, a revolution on how we see other species. Humanity has changed their relationship with the planet. We realized our ways of living didn't allow a dignified life for everyone, because only a few were profiting from the destruction of the earth. And that was leading all of us to extinction. In the beginning, it was difficult, but when we started seeing the transformations, we understand it was worth it.
It seems to be working well for us all now. So why are you here?
I thought that in a respectful manner, we could start entering these spaces again.
Sharing this planet means you don't have the right to take over the whole of it. This is our place. Being respectful is also recognizing that.
It's not easy.
You've said you're not all the same. I understand now. I thought it was all over, but it seems we still need to remind you from time to time about the past.
I'm sorry.
You should go back now.
What about my leg?
What about it? The man realizes his leg is back to normal. Sorry.
Blackout. Lights come up and he's back at the fence. He jumps over it. The guide is there, resting in the shade. You've made it.
That bird.
You're lucky. The last person who tried that didn't come back.
What happened?
We hear the sound of a puma. As lights fade out, the bird sings again. Bem te vi, bem te vi, te vi, te vi. Nicole Pschetz is a Brazilian theater maker and performer based in Paris. She has created shows in Brazil, the UK, Italy, Portugal, and France. Her first company, Energy in Motion, physical theater, was co-directed with the Mexican performer Antonio Blanco in England. Since 2015, she is the artistic director of Pub Electric, a physical theater and multimedia company that focuses on contemporary themes through a critical and poetic dialogue between physical expression and the digital arts. Interesting.
Nice. I imagine the bird scene as being sort of a like almost dreamlike state. It's sort of the feeling I got reading the play was that the man crosses the fence and maybe gets too far or like too dehydrated, passes out, hurts himself. It felt like a dream, but maybe like a dream of acknowledging the subconscious. I'd like to see, I think in the design, a contrast between like reality of the beginning and the end, and then a more heightened presence of the bird, I think could be really effective. It does say that the bird could be a puppet or costume that could be really like striking, which is sort of how I imagined it. Taking on a storyteller position within the play, in contrast to like a more like modern looking like trekking gear man. I think it's a nice balance of like the guide, the man, and then the bird. Maybe 3 different relationships to like natural materials as well in the costuming.
Yeah, it's interesting that they have leather sandals and straw hat, civil plain clothes, trekking clothes, and how to do the bird. I wonder what this bird looks like.
Mhm.
Tangus. Oh, it's like a yellow and brown bird with a black and white striped face.
Mm.
Interesting. I think this idea, just like going back to the absolute beginning of the play, but like I think the idea of the Half Earth project is really inspiring. And like, I don't know, I would be really interested in like this play, like somehow being like related to some conservation effort, but I'm not, or maybe it's just that's what it is in like the activism of like the work because of its themes. But yeah, just like the idea of being like respectful and giving space and is such a important idea. But like, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if this is a real occurrence in the savannah, the Cerrado. I'm curious whether there has been a restoration project or rewilding of a certain area. It certainly feels important. I know, like, it reminds me of areas in certain parks in Toronto that used to be like really groomed, have for many years now like been fenced off. And also areas in High Park, which is right outside my window, that like you're not supposed to enter those areas of the park, and they're left, not, I wouldn't say like unmaintained, but they are left to like rewild themselves. So it feels possible that this is also happening in the Cerrado, or maybe the author's just hoping that it would happen.
Mhm.
It sounds like this movement from like a tourist place to a pipeline back to a place that's being like rewilded sounds magical. Like what a transformation.
Yeah, it's definitely like a beautiful like future vision in that way.
Mhm. And I think the future vision would be really nice to see in that middle scene. Like the bird can be like larger than life. Like maybe the future vision can also be like just a really spectacular place that he ends up. Which might heighten the drama of him like being told like you need to leave, like it's not for you, it's amazing here, but like you have to respect that not everything is yours.
Yeah, I like that idea. Like it's like maybe overwhelmingly beautiful. I wonder if there's a way that it could be like either like somehow shrouded or something where it's like really bright but like almost too bright to look at, like with like lights like sort of almost blinding the audience. Like my first instinct was having the guide character play the bird as well. But maybe doing something with like silhouetting or like lighting facing the audience that like show like, you know, something very gloriously beautiful, but like also like kind of hard to look at.
Yeah, I like that.
It's also would be cool like with that like hurts to look at, because it's like we're not meant to see it, you know what I mean? Like there's this hidden place that humans shouldn't be crossing, so it's like this little, I don't know, like hidden oasis. I was thinking like, you know, Avatar, like the like beautiful like world. It'd be interesting to do something like that, and then yeah, like this beautiful like place that you want to be like this paradise. And I was also thinking like when we were reading it, it'd also be great for like a children's piece to kind of teach them about like boundaries and all these like things that adult humans like almost don't like care about it anymore. Like they feel like it doesn't apply to them. especially with like corporations, like taking like with land ownership and all that kind of thing. So I think it'd be a great way to like teach younger people about it in a way that's like simple, but still kind of like hopeful for like we can get to that creative paradise in the future. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it might be
Yeah.
nice to stage this type of thing like outside, like almost like on the border of like a public park and like a conservation area. It's like an educational opportunity of like the importance of conservation areas and like why they should remain untouched. And then also like, especially if it's for young people, bringing in the realities of like the fact that people are not, you know, rewilding on a mass scale, and that this is like a goal.
Yeah, that should be a goal. Cool. It's really good provocation to have that bird character in there. Okay, I think we have time to do our last play of the day,
I think so.
which is by Rigney, and the title is Sammie and Gran. Let's move on here. Okay, Sammie and Gran by Rigney. Inspiration. I have a long-running feud with unused parking lots. They trap heat and give nothing back. If we're visioning for the future, let's reimagine how to use our supposedly lost cause spaces. As for theater, well, in 5 minutes, better make it fun. Nice. Sammie and Gran, a 5-minute play for 2 adult actors. Set requirements: a place with a comfy chair for reading. The time: this morning. Sammie, a very precocious child of 8. Gran, Sammie's grandparent. Lights up on a very comfy chair where a loving grandparent might read to a child. Nearby, a selection of children's picture books. Sammie is skipping rope and chanting. Sammie is 8.
Miss Lucy had a turtle. She named him Tiny Tim. She put him in the bathtub to see if he could swim.
Gran enters as Sammie stops skipping.
Except I don't get it. I mean, even an exclusively terrestrial turtle, if it had to, in an emergency, it could swim, right?
Sammie, there are no emergencies around here. Now, it's story time. Are we ready?
How come you always get to choose?
Once upon a time, there was a magical kingdom where everyone was inordinately happy.
Objection.
Honey, are we reading or not?
Can I say my objection first?
How many do you have?
3 so far.
All right, but then we read.
Okay, first, magic doesn't exist, so this place you're talking about can't be true. And second, what's magic about putting some random rich guy in charge of everything and calling him king? And third, who the heck uses inordinately in a kid's book?
Are we done?
Yes.
Page 2. The reason this kingdom was magical is that most of the people who lived there had everything they wanted, or at least had the possibility of someday getting everything they wanted, which explains why all the people who mattered were happy very nearly. Sammie, it's not
like
polite to interrupt. Please. It's not politely to interrupt. Plus, I have no idea what you're doing.
I'm being a sheep because the people in this story, they're sheep. And because you are always and forever telling me not to blindly follow others.
Yes, and I tell you this because you're my grandchild and I love you. But the fact is, when you grow up and do grown-up things, like taking psychotropic drugs and shopping for 3-pound bags of Idaho potatoes, you run out of time to research and fact-check what's really going on in the world. So you pick a name or a faction or a party and you just go with it. Now, page 3. The happy people in the magical kingdom were kept distracted by all manner of fabulous entertainments, including...
No, stop. This book, I mean, first, there's no plot. And second, it's trying to deny that we live in a dynamic world.
Trust me, hon, nobody Nobody sane wants to live in a dynamic world.
Okay, but you know Cousin Eddie, the one with the farm pond? Everybody thinks all he does is cast for bluegill and spit nasty plugs of tobacco into his triple nasty Tennessee Titan solo cup. But you know what he's really been doing all these years?
Hand to God, I have no idea.
Dreaming up a better mousetrap, which in this case means a brand new business model.
Are we talking about the same Cousin Eddie?
When he's not reciting Wendell Berry or communing with nature, Eddie is a seriously talented contractor. Hard to believe, I know. So to explain, let me lay down some bars.
Sammie grabs her jump rope and proceeds to rap out a skipping chant. If there's a handy post, perhaps Gran can be the one rotating the rope, controlling the meter by fault.
Now, Eddie had a notion about the rising of the ocean, so he took in all the facts, didn't listen to the rumors. If you fall for all the rumors, that's a cancer, that's a tumor. Now, people say he's lazy, kind of hazy, kind of crazy, but he kept on with his fishing, making chains of endless daisies, while he dreamed his plans of action, made sure it had some traction. And now I'm out of breath, just breathe and go. So Eddie called his buddies, said, the idea is muddy, but it's also kind of money. Then they drove to the mall on a hot summer's day and they sat in Eddie's car, no AC, no shade. And Eddie said, guys, what we're feeling is the future. The heat is like a suture. I'm a newborn climate booster and parking lots are trouble. The heat, it's like a bubble. So let's turn it into rubble because there's money to be made with a pond or a glade or planting trees for shade. Then the heat sink is gone and our temps go down and we'll still have parking lots all over town, but they can be smaller and appropriate size. And we plan better cities, get smart, get wise as our Green New Deal keeps our eyes on the prize.
Hun, you're not making any sense.
The way it all works is a buyback plan where Eddie does the labor and the feds cut a check. It's kind of low tech. We, the people, get the perks and we, the people, stay cool as Eddie puts to work what we should have learned in school. And that's a hop, skip, and a jump. Ta-da!
Possibly Sammie takes a bow.
Child, the government doesn't pay people to rip up perfectly good parking lots.
The government has a lot of buyback programs. Refrigerants for one, Freon.
We need parking lots.
Gran, even at the holidays, Christmas, they're half empty.
You are getting too big for your 8-year-old britches.
No, but I'll tell you one thing this future voter is done with. Stories where the world never changes.
But this book, this is my favorite, ever since I was a girl, younger than you.
Gran, I love you. And I get that for your entire generation, this was the book. But at this point now, today, I just helped Eddie get a meeting with our congressional rep. So things are happening, right? And you can either lead, follow, or get out of the way.
A moment, Gran makes her choice.
All I know for sure is that right now it's story time, but this time you get to pick.
Sammie hands Gran the rope and selects a book.
This one. Once upon tomorrow, around the world did roll. It's hard to bend the future, but it's good to have a goal.
Gran summons up her courage and tries a single skip with the rope. Success. Sammie turns the page. Blackout. End of play. Mark Rigney's plays have been produced in 22 states, plus Australia, Canada, Hong Kong, and Nepal. In New York, his work has played off-Broadway at 59E59. He's a member of the Dramatists Guild and has won multiple national playwriting contests, including the John Gassner Award, the Panowiski Playwriting Award, and the Maxim Mazumdar New Play Competition. His published work is available from Playscript Inc. and Smith & Cross's The Best 10-Minute Plays. Amazing. Thank you for reading that. That was
mouthful.
A lot. Yeah, mouthful. But fun. This was a really smart 8-year-old. I don't know if I hang out with some 8-year-olds, but I guess, yeah, I feel like it's realistic how up and coming an 8-year-old can be.
8-year-olds are super clever and they're like morally attuned as well. Even if they sometimes do completely stupid, rebellious shit, they're like, you know, they just don't do bullshit yet.
Yeah. I liked this. I like the sense of story too, like Gran being attached to the story. And the child being like, your story's over. It gets back to
Yeah.
the new generation questioning the American dream.
Mhm.
Cousin Eddie sounds awesome. It's very convincing. I mean, I think the set is, I imagine it quite simply, because the world of this play is created in the imagination of the 8-year-old.
Mhm.
You know, I don't think it needs a lot of visuals. It just needs a place where like you can really hear the actors, and the jump rope can be as fabulous as it seems it wants to be.
Yeah, and the comfy chair could like travel like this. Like I definitely was imagining like, you know, like a library or something like as a good place for this. And you can have like, I don't know, a big armchair or even like a rocking chair and then like some space for skipping.
Mm-hmm. It really turns on the actors.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that the whole like poem song skipping chant is super charming and would be great for kids,
Mhm.
like young audiences.
And I felt transported into like the car in the parking lot with Eddie. Like I pictured him fishing. Like that seemed like the other world of the play, but it was all described, you know.
Mhm.
Maybe a big moment, a big design moment might be like when Gran gets out of her chair and jumps skipping rope, you know. Like that seems to be the biggest, like besides the kids energetic movement, Gran's like eventual
Such a good like
change.
little visual metaphor of like courage to do a single jump with a rope, whereas when you're a kid you have to like boom, 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 like double dutch.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah,
This is sweet. A sweet play.
yeah, really sweet.
Yeah, I never thought about the parking lots being mostly empty. I'm gonna look at that now at Christmas. Also feels like there's never enough parking, but maybe there is.
Yeah, like in a city it feels like there's never enough, but like you also need it so much less, but like outside the
Yeah.
city there's just so much.
Yeah.
I wonder how many like parking spaces there are in the world relative to cars.
That's a good question. Yeah, is there one parking spot per car?
There's probably like at least 10, I don't know, but
Yeah.
like every car is parked somewhere right now. Or driving, but yeah.
Yeah, it would be good to assume we should have only as many, we should have like only 75% parking spots per car, assuming that 25% of cars are on the move at any given time. I don't know if that works out math-wise, but city planning. Well, that was all of the plays we wanted to read today. So I feel really accomplished.
Way to go.
We also actually read all of the plays plus one because we read the beginning one, Marcus Youssef. Oh, thank you so much for joining, both of you and Alex earlier today. It was really fun to host this one. I'm looking forward to being at the next few weeks. And then I'll be gone because I'm gonna have babies.
Awesome. I think yeah, we have another artist or another designer hosting next week's reading, Debashish Sinha. And
Oh,
then,
great.
And then we also, next week's GNL class is like an overlap with the eco-scenography reading group hosted by Tanya. So they'll have actors reading plays. I think it's in that same evening time slot on Monday, so should be good.
Oh, great.
Mhm.
Okay, great. I'm going to stop this recording.